In the closing decades of the 19th century, the great European powers were rushing to carve up the African continent. The driving force of this new wave of expansion was the Industrial Revolution, which created an insatiable demand for raw materials and new markets. One of the most aggressive of the empire builders was Cecil Rhodes, the British mining magnate and politician who dreamed of painting the map of Africa red from Cape to Cairo. His primary instrument was the British South Africa Company, BSAC, a commercial enterprise that in 1889 received a royal charter granting it the authority to colonize vast territories, make treaties, and administer lands on behalf of the British Crown. Rhodes' attention first turned to the region south of the Zambezi, which his company's pioneer column occupied in 1890, laying the foundation for what would become Southern Rhodesia, modern-day Zimbabwe. However, the ambitions of the BSAC did not stop at the river. The company was driven by a relentless search for mineral wealth, especially gold. While the territory north of the Zambezi was initially seen as less promising than its southern counterpart, Rhodes was determined to bring it under his company's control before his European rivals, the Germans, Belgians, and Portuguese, could claim it. The process of conquering this vast territory, which would eventually become known as Northern Rhodesia, was not a single event but a piecemeal process spanning over 30 years. It was a story of deceptive treaties, brutal military suppression, reluctant administrators, and the gradual subordination of powerful African kingdoms. If you're enjoying this journey through history, please give the video a like and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring more stories to life. The Lochner Concession and the Kingdom of Barotseland. The first piece of the colonial puzzle to fall into place was the Western Territory of Barotseland, the homeland of the Lozi people. In the 1890s, the Lozi king, Lewanika, faced a precarious situation. His kingdom, which controlled the fertile floodplains of the upper Zambezi River, was vulnerable to attacks from the powerful Ndebele kingdom to the south, and was also threatened by Portuguese expansion from Angola in the west. Seeking a powerful ally, Lewanika desired the protection of the British Crown, whom he believed would act as a guarantor of his sovereignty. In 1890, this desire for security was exploited by the BSAC. The company dispatched a representative named Frank Elliot Lochner to the Lozi capital. Lewanika was told that the BSAC was a branch of the British government, a deception that was central to the company's strategy. On the 27th of June 1890, believing he was signing an agreement with the Queen of England that would bring military protection and development to his kingdom, Lewanika put his mark on the Lochner Concession. The document, however, was far more one-sided than the king understood. It granted the BSAC exclusive rights to all the minerals and trade across the entire territory of Barotseland in exchange for a modest annual subsidy and a vague promise of protection that Lochner had no authority to make. Lewanika later expressed profound unhappiness upon learning the true nature of the agreement, but the die was cast. The concession gave the BSAC the legal pretext it needed to claim sovereignty over a vast area of western Zambia, which it initially administered as Barotseland Northwestern Rhodesia. As subsequent decades would show, the promised protection did little to shield the Lozi people from the harsh realities of colonial taxation, forced labor, and the steady erosion of their king's sovereign authority. Alfred Sharpe and the contest for the northeast. While the Lochner Concession was securing the west, the northeastern region of what is now Zambia was being drawn into the British sphere through the actions of another key figure, Sir Alfred Sharpe. Sharpe was a professional hunter who became a colonial administrator, and in 1890 he was employed jointly by Cecil Rhodes and the British consul for Nyasaland, Sir Harry Johnston. Sharpe was sent on a dual mission. First, he was to secure treaties with local chiefs in the area, particularly around Lake Malawi, that would bring them under British protection. Second, and crucially for Rhodes, he was to negotiate mineral concessions for the BSAC. Sharpe was operating in a competitive environment. The region was also being eyed by the Germans from the east, and the Portuguese, with their long-standing claims to territories in the region. posed a constant threat. The area was further destabilized by the presence of powerful African kingdoms, including the Ngoni and Bemba, who resisted European encroachment. Through a combination of diplomacy, threat, and the signing of protectorate treaties, Sharpe helped lay the groundwork for British claims in the region. The territories he helped secure were initially administered separately from Barotseland as Northeastern Rhodesia. The expansion northwards also drew the BSAC into a fierce rivalry with the agents of King Leopold II of Belgium, who were operating from the neighboring Congo Free State in the hunt for the mineral wealth of Katanga. The use of force, the Ngoni and Bemba resist the treaty-making period, was only the first step. For many African kingdoms, the signing of a piece of paper did not signify an acceptance of foreign rule. When BSAC administrators and their European settlers began to arrive in force to enforce colonial law, collect taxes, and exploit mineral rights, resistance was inevitable. The most powerful and organized resistance came from the Ngoni people in the east, under their king, Maxim. The Ngoni were a formidable military society, descendants of refugees from the Zulu Wars who had migrated north and established the powerful state in the Lochner Valley. As BSAC prospectors flooded into Ngoni territory, the king's son, Prince Nsingo, took a stand. In December 1897, he assembled an army of thousands of Ngoni warriors and attacked the British at Fort Jameson, modern-day Chipata. The Ngoni initially forced the British to retreat, demonstrating their military prowess. However, the conflict was profoundly uneven. The British brought up reinforcements armed with the Maxim gun, the world's first self-powered machine gun, which could fire 600 rounds per minute. The Ngoni, armed with spears, shields, and outdated firearms, were no match for this industrial age weapon. The British overran the Ngoni capital in February 1898. Prince Nsingo was betrayed, captured, court-martialed, and executed by firing squad the next morning. Mvizini was also captured, humiliated, and imprisoned, dying soon after his release. The defeat of the Ngoni broke the back of organized military resistance in the east. Further north, the powerful Bemba kingdom, which had long dominated the region through its control of trade and its formidable army, also submitted to the BSAC's authority. While the Bemba did not mount a single, pitched battle on the scale of the Ngoni, their subjugation involved a gradual erosion of their power by the company's officials, often exploiting rivalries within the royal family and using the threat of military force. The amalgamation and the legacy of company rule. For the first 2 decades of colonial rule, the territory of modern-day Zambia was governed as 2 separate entities: Northwestern Rhodesia, the former Barotseland Concession, and Northeastern Rhodesia, the territory secured by Sharpe and others. This arrangement was administratively inefficient. On the 17th of August 1911, the 2 territories were amalgamated to form a single British protectorate named Northern Rhodesia. The name, chosen by the BSAC, honored Cecil Rhodes, the man who had orchestrated the entire enterprise. Even after amalgamation, the administration of Northern Rhodesia remained in the hands of the BSAC. For the company, the territory was primarily valuable as a source of cheap labor and a potential source of mineral wealth, though significant copper deposits would not be discovered until the late 1920s. The imposition of a cash tax forced thousands of African men to leave their homes to find work on the mines and farms of neighboring southern Rhodesia and South Africa, tying the region's economy to the industrial heartland of the South. The end of an era company rule was deeply unpopular, both with the small number of white settlers who felt the BSAC was too powerful and with the African majority, who resented its brutal and extractive nature. After over 30 years of controversy, the British government decided to terminate the BSAC's charter. On the 1st of April 1924, the British South Africa Company formally handed over the administration of Northern Rhodesia to the British Colonial Office. The territory was officially proclaimed a British Protectorate. The era of corporate colonialism had come to an end, replaced by the more formal, but still oppressive apparatus of the British imperial state. The path was now set for the consolidation of colonial rule, the discovery of the Copperbelt, and the long, ultimately successful struggle for independence that would culminate in the birth of the Republic of Zambia on the 24th of October 1964. From the deception of the Lochner Concession to the brutal efficiency of the Maxim gun, the creation of Northern Rhodesia was a process forged in ambition, betrayal, and violence. The borders drawn in the colonial era, designed to serve European commercial and strategic interests, became the permanent foundation for the modern African nation of Zambia, bequeathing to it a complex and contested legacy. Thank you for watching. If you found this history valuable, please like and subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective and keep the conversation going.